My boss said I'd never get a raise because I was lucky to even have a job, so I secretly started freelancing on the side, matched my salary in 3 months, quit over email with screenshots of his harassment, and then got hired by his competitor as a senior manager. The day I showed up at our first shared client meeting, his jaw dropped. You shouldn't underestimate the quiet ones. Let me paint you a picture of where this all started. I'm Sarah, not my real name, obviously, and until 3 months ago, I worked at a mid-sized digital marketing agency called Brand Boost Solutions. For context, I'm 28, have a master's in marketing, speak 3 languages fluently, and had been grinding away at this company for 4 years. 4 years of my life I'll never get back. When I started there fresh out of grad school, I was naive and hopeful. I thought if I just worked hard enough, stayed late enough, and proved my worth, I'd climb that corporate ladder like everyone promised. What a joke that turned out to be. The company itself wasn't terrible, decent clients, modern office, free coffee, though it tasted like burnt sadness. The problem was my boss, who I'll call Derek, because that's exactly the kind of name a middle-aged man-child with a Napoleon complex would have. Derek was one of those guys who peaked in high school and never got over it. You know the type, loud, obnoxious, always talking over people, especially women, and absolutely convinced that his mediocre ideas were pure genius. He was 42, divorced twice, shocking, I know, drove a red Camaro that screamed midlife crisis, and had the personality of a wet paper bag soaked in entitlement. But here's the thing about Derek that made him truly insufferable: he was threatened by competence. Not just a little bit uncomfortable, I'm talking full-blown, insecure baby man threatened by anyone who might make him look bad. And unfortunately for me, I was really, really good at my job. When I first started, I was assigned to Derek's team as a junior marketing coordinator. The role was supposed to be entry-level stuff, social media posts, basic content creation, administrative tasks. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Within my first month, I had identified 3 major inefficiencies in our client reporting process and created automated solutions that saved our team about 10 hours per week. I redesigned our social media templates to be more engaging and saw a 40% increase in client engagement rates. I even caught a billing error that would have cost our biggest client an extra $12,000 annually. You'd think Derek would be thrilled, right? His new hire was making him look good, making the team more efficient, saving money. In a normal workplace, this would be cause for celebration. But Derek? Derek was pissed. I remember the exact moment I realized I had a target on my back. It was a team meeting about 6 weeks into my employment. I had just finished presenting my social media performance analysis, complete with charts, graphs, and actionable recommendations, when Derek interrupted me mid-sentence. That's enough, Sarah, he said, not even looking up from his phone. We don't need junior staff trying to reinvent the wheel here. Stick to what you're assigned. The room went silent. Even my co-workers looked uncomfortable. But I was young and stupid, so I pushed back, politely, professionally. I understand, Derek, but the data really shows that these changes could improve our client retention rates by... Did I stutter? He finally looked up, and his face was red. I said that's enough. Maybe focus on doing your actual job before trying to play strategist. That was the beginning of the end, though I didn't know it yet. Over the next 3.5 years, Derek made it his personal mission to keep me in my place. And he was creative about it, I'll give him that. It wasn't obvious enough to be reported to HR, but it was constant, grinding, soul-crushing psychological warfare. He'd assign me projects, then swoop in at the last minute to take credit when they succeeded. When they failed, usually because he changed the requirements without telling me, suddenly it was all my fault. He'd schedule urgent meetings at 5:30 p.m. on Fridays, then spend the entire time asking me to redo work that was perfectly fine. He'd CC me on emails to clients where he'd subtly throw me under the bus, always with just enough plausible deniability. But the worst part? He'd do it all with this condescending smile, like he was doing me a favor. Just trying to help you grow, Sarah. This is how you learn in the real world. You'll thank me for this someday. I started doubting myself. Was I really as good as I thought? Maybe Derek was right. Maybe I was overreaching, being too ambitious, not knowing my place. The imposter syndrome was real and it was eating me alive. My performance reviews were exercises in creative fiction. Derek would acknowledge that I met all my targets, he couldn't lie about the numbers, but somehow I was always not ready for the next level. I needed to be more of a team player. I should focus on listening more and talking less. I needed to develop better judgment and more realistic expectations. Meanwhile, I watched as less qualified people, specifically, less qualified men, got promoted around me. Jake, who started 6 months after me, got bumped up to senior coordinator after 18 months. Marcus, who literally fell asleep in client meetings, got moved to the strategy team. Kevin, who once sent a campaign to the wrong client entirely, somehow became a team lead. But me? I was lucky to have a job, according to Derek. The final straw came 4 months ago during my annual review. I had prepared for this meeting like my life depended on it. I had documentation of every success, every efficiency improvement, every glowing client review. I had researched industry salary standards and promotion timelines. I was ready to make my case. The meeting was scheduled for an hour. It lasted 12 minutes. I walked into Derek's office with a folder full of my accomplishments and a rehearsed speech about why I deserved a promotion to senior coordinator, a position I should have gotten 2 years earlier. Derek barely looked up from his computer. "So, Sarah," he said, finally glancing at me with that familiar condescending expression. "Let's get this over with. You meet expectations, same as always. No raise this year, budget constraints, you understand. Corporate's been really tight with the purse strings." I took a deep breath. "Actually, Derek, I wanted to discuss my career progression. I've been here 4 years now, and I think my performance demonstrates that I'm ready for more responsibility. I've brought in 3 new clients this year alone, and my campaign performance metrics are consistently above team average." He actually laughed. Not a friendly chuckle, a mean, dismissive laugh that made my skin crawl. "Sarah, sweetie," he said, using that patronizing tone that made me want to scream, "let me give you some advice. You need to adjust your expectations. This isn't college where everyone gets a participation trophy. In the real world, you need to prove your value, and frankly, you're not there yet. But my performance metrics clearly show." "Your performance is adequate," he cut me off. "Adequate? You do what you're told, you meet your deadlines, congratulations. That's called doing your job. It's not exceptional, it's not promotion-worthy, it's just fine." I felt my face getting hot, but I pressed on. "Derek, I've generated over $200,000 in new business this year. I've improved our team efficiency by 30%. I've received commendations from 5 different clients. How is that just adequate?" That's when he leaned back in his chair and gave me the smile that still haunts my dreams, patronizing, cruel, and full of barely contained contempt. "Let me explain something to you, Sarah. You seem to be under the impression that you're irreplaceable or something. That you deserve special treatment. But here's the reality check you apparently need: you're not special. You're not irreplaceable. You're not even particularly valuable to this company. You're lucky, and I mean really, really lucky, that we even keep you around." The room was spinning. 4 years of work, 4 years of staying late and coming in early and dealing with his bullshit, and this is what I got? But he wasn't done. "You want to know the truth? The honest-to-God truth? You'll never get a raise here. Not next year, not the year after that, not ever. You know why? Because you don't have what it takes. You're too soft, too emotional, too female for this business. You can make all the charts and graphs you want, but at the end of the day, you're just not leadership material." I sat there in stunned silence as he continued his character assassination. "My advice? Stop reaching for things that are out of your league and be grateful for what you have. There are plenty of people who would kill for your job, people who wouldn't constantly whine about promotions and raises. People who understand that they're replaceable." He stood up, clearly indicating the meeting was over. "So what's it going to be, Sarah? Are you going to accept reality and do your job, or do I need to start looking for someone who actually appreciates the opportunity we've given them?" I somehow managed to whisper, "I understand." "Good. Now get back to work. Those social media posts won't write themselves." I walked out of his office in a daze. I went to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and cried for 20 minutes. Not sad crying, angry crying. The kind of crying that burns your throat and makes you want to punch walls. But somewhere between the tears and the rage, something crystallized in my mind. Fuck this guy. That night, I went home to my tiny studio apartment and did something I hadn't done in years. I took a long, hard look at my actual worth in the job market. I updated my LinkedIn profile. I researched salary ranges for my experience level. I looked at job openings at other agencies. And you know what I discovered? Derek was full of shit. I was underpaid by at least $15,000 annually compared to industry standards. My skill set was not only in demand, it was highly sought after. The campaigns I'd created, the systems I'd implemented, the client relationships I'd built, all of that was genuinely valuable. I had been so beaten down, so gaslit by Derek's constant criticism, that I had forgotten a fundamental truth: I was actually really fucking good at my job. But here's the thing, I wasn't ready to just quit and find another traditional job. I wanted revenge. I wanted to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that Derek was wrong about me. I wanted him to regret every condescending word, every dismissive gesture, every time he made me feel small. I wanted him to learn what replaceable really meant. So I made a plan. A beautiful, methodical, absolutely devastating plan. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. I smiled at Derek, said good morning in my usual cheerful voice, and got to my desk right on time. To anyone watching, I was the same old Sarah, quietly doing my job, staying in my lane, not causing any trouble. But that night, I started my real work. I had always been interested in freelancing but never had the time or energy to pursue it seriously. Derek had changed that. Now I had all the motivation in the world. I started by creating profiles on Upwork, Fiverr, and several other freelancing platforms. I used a slightly modified version of my real name and was careful not to mention Brand Boost Solutions anywhere in my profiles. I didn't want this getting back to Derek before I was ready. My profiles were honest about my experience level, but I was strategic about how I presented myself. Instead of junior marketing coordinator, I described myself as a marketing specialist with 4+ years of agency experience. Instead of listing my mundane job duties, I highlighted my actual accomplishments, increased client engagement rates by 40%, generated over $200,000 in new business, implemented efficiency improvements that saved 10+ hours weekly. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 48 hours, I had 12 inquiries. By the end of the first week, I had landed 3 small projects: a social media audit for a local restaurant, content creation for a startup, and a basic SEO analysis for an e-commerce site. Nothing huge, but enough to get started. The work itself was easy. Embarrassingly easy. After 4 years of dealing with Derek's impossible standards and constant criticism, doing straightforward marketing tasks for appreciative clients felt like a vacation. They thanked me for my work. They paid on time. They left positive reviews. It was like being reminded that I was a human being with value. Balancing a full-time job with a growing freelance business was exhausting, but I was running on pure spite at this point. I'd work my regular 9 to 5 at Brand Boost, then come home and work on client projects until midnight. Weekends were dedicated entirely to freelancing. Derek, meanwhile, continued being his charming self. If anything, he seemed more confident in his treatment of me after our review meeting. He'd make little comments about knowing your place and being realistic about your capabilities. He started assigning me more menial tasks, scheduling meetings, organizing files, proofreading other people's work. Don't want to overwhelm you, Sarah, he'd say with that smirk. Let's keep you in your comfort zone. I smiled and nodded and said of course, Derek, while internally planning his professional destruction. The freelance work kept growing. Word of mouth is powerful in the digital marketing world, and satisfied clients were referring me to their networks. By the end of month 1, I was making an extra $800. Not life-changing money, but proof of concept. Month 2 brought a breakthrough. A medium-sized tech company hired me to overhaul their entire content marketing strategy. It was a $3,500 project, more than I made in a month at my day job. The client was thrilled with the results and immediately hired me for ongoing monthly work. Suddenly, I wasn't just making pocket change. I was building a legitimate business. But the real magic happened in month 3. By month 3, I had built a client roster that would make any marketing agency jealous. I was doing comprehensive campaigns, managing multiple ongoing retainers, and developing long-term strategies for businesses across various industries. The work was challenging in all the right ways. My clients trusted my expertise, implemented my recommendations, and saw real results. I wasn't just executing other people's ideas, I was the strategist, the decision maker, the expert they were paying for. It was everything Derek had told me I'd never be. The numbers were staggering. In month 3 alone, I invoiced $4,200 in freelance work. That was nearly equal to my monthly take-home pay from Brand Boost after taxes and deductions. But more importantly, I was happy. For the first time in years, I was excited about my work. I looked forward to client calls. I felt energized by challenges instead of defeated by them. I remembered why I had chosen marketing as a career in the first place. The contrast with my day job became unbearable. Every morning, I dragged myself to the Brand Boost office and spend 8 hours being treated like an incompetent child by a man who couldn't strategy his way out of a paper bag. Then I'd go home and do work that actually mattered, for clients who actually valued my contributions. The cognitive dissonance was breaking my brain. That's when I knew it was time for phase 4. Before I could make my grand exit, I needed ammunition. Derek's treatment of me had been subtle enough to fly under HR's radar, but I knew that if I documented it properly, I could build a case that would protect me from any retaliation. I started keeping detailed records of every interaction. I forwarded work emails to my personal account. I took screenshots of his comments on shared documents. I saved copies of client feedback that he had taken credit for. I documented every instance of him assigning me tasks below my pay grade while giving more junior employees opportunities I was denied. But the real goldmine was his text messages. See, Derek had this habit of sending urgent work-related texts at all hours. Weekends, evenings, vacation days, he didn't care. He'd text about everything from genuine emergencies to asking me to update a spreadsheet that could easily wait until Monday. Most of these messages were merely annoying, but some crossed definite professional boundaries. Messages like, "Sarah, you need to stop being so sensitive about feedback. It's not personal, it's business. Learn to take criticism better. I need you to stay late tonight to fix the Johnson presentation. I know you probably have plans, but this is more important than your personal life. Your attitude in the meeting today was inappropriate. We'll discuss your behavior issues tomorrow." And my personal favorite. "I'm starting to wonder if you're really cut out for this work environment. Maybe you should consider whether this is the right career path for you." All of these were sent to my personal phone, all outside of work hours, all completely inappropriate. I screenshot every single one. Everything came together in month 4. I had just landed my biggest freelance client yet, a $8,000 comprehensive rebranding project for a growing SaaS company. The client had found me through a referral from another satisfied customer, and after our initial consultation, they were so impressed that they wanted to discuss a long-term retainer arrangement. The meeting was scheduled for a Thursday at 2 p.m. I told Derek I had a medical appointment and took a long lunch. The client meeting was incredible. They loved my ideas, my approach, my vision for their brand. We talked for 2 hours about strategy, implementation, and long-term goals. By the end of the meeting, they had verbally committed to a 6-month retainer worth $12,000. I was walking back to the Brand Boost office, still high from the success of the meeting, when I got a text from Derek. "Where are you? The Peterson presentation needs major revisions and I need them done today. Your medical appointment better be over." I looked at that message and realized something profound. I didn't have to take this anymore. For the first time in 4 years, I had real options. I had clients who valued my work. I had a business that was already generating more monthly income than my day job. I had evidence of Derek's unprofessional behavior. Most importantly, I had my confidence back. I also had the perfect plan for how to quit. I spent that entire evening crafting my resignation email. This wasn't going to be a simple 2 weeks' notice. This was going to be a surgical strike designed to cause maximum professional damage while maintaining complete legal and ethical high ground. I wrote 17 different drafts. Each one was more brutal than the last, but I wanted to make sure my tone remained professional throughout. The goal wasn't to sound angry or emotional, it was to sound competent, confident, and completely done with Derek's bullshit. Here's the final version I sent, names changed, obviously. Please accept this email as my formal notification of resignation from my position as marketing coordinator at Brand Boost Solutions, effective immediately. Over the past 4 years, I have consistently exceeded performance expectations, generated substantial revenue for the company, and contributed to significant improvements in team efficiency and client satisfaction. Unfortunately, it has become clear that these contributions are neither valued nor likely to result in appropriate career advancement within this organization. As you mentioned in my recent performance review, I should adjust my expectations and accept that I will never get a raise here because I'm lucky to even have a job. I have taken your advice to heart and adjusted my expectations accordingly. I now expect to work in an environment where professional growth is possible and where contributions are recognized. To that end, I am pleased to inform you that I have accepted a position elsewhere that better aligns with my career goals and compensation expectations. Per company policy, I am providing this notice in writing. However, given the work environment and your expressed views about my capabilities, I believe it would be best for all parties if my departure were immediate rather than extending through a notice period. I am confident that my replacement will be easily found, as you have frequently reminded me how replaceable I am. I will be forwarding a separate email to HR documenting several instances of unprofessional communication and workplace behavior that I believe violate company policy. This documentation is being provided to ensure that future employees have a more positive experience than I have had. My personal belongings will be collected from my desk this afternoon. Please have my final paycheck, including any accrued vacation time, processed and ready for pickup. I wish the company success in the future, and I hope that my replacement will be someone who better meets your standards for what constitutes an adequate employee. Best regards, Sarah Mitchell. P.S. You were right about one thing, I was lucky to have this job. I'm even luckier to be leaving it. But I wasn't done. The resignation email was just the opening salvo. The real weapon was the follow-up email I sent to HR, with Derek CC'd. That email was a masterpiece of professional documentation. I laid out 4 years of inappropriate behavior, complete with dates, witnesses, and screenshots of text messages. I documented every instance of gender-based discrimination, every inappropriate comment about my emotional nature or lack of leadership material, every time I was passed over for promotions in favor of less qualified male colleagues. I included Derek's own words from my performance review: "You're too soft, too emotional, too female for this business." I had written those exact words down immediately after our meeting, along with the date and time. I attached screenshots of his after-hours text messages, highlighting the ones that were most clearly inappropriate. I provided a detailed timeline of projects I had completed successfully that he had taken credit for. I included client feedback emails praising my work that he had never passed along to me. The email was 15 pages long. It was comprehensive, damning, and completely factual. I sent both emails at exactly 5:01 p.m. on a Friday. Then I turned off my work phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and waited for the fireworks. Derek's response came within minutes. My personal phone started blowing up with increasingly frantic text messages. "What the fuck, Sarah? You can't just quit without notice. That's not how this works. Call me immediately. We need to discuss this. This is completely unprofessional. I'm disappointed in your behavior. Fine. Don't bother coming back. I'll have security pack up your desk. You're making a huge mistake. No one else is going to put up with your attitude. Good luck finding another job with this kind of reference." I screenshot every single message and forwarded them to HR with a note: "Additional evidence of unprofessional communication received after my resignation." The weekend was blissfully quiet. I spent Saturday cleaning out my desk, security wasn't there, despite Derek's threat, and Sunday working on my freelance projects. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Monday morning brought a call from HR asking if I could come in for an exit interview. I politely declined, stating that I had already provided comprehensive feedback in my email and had nothing further to add. Tuesday, I got a call from Derek's boss, the VP of Client Services. He wanted to discuss the situation and see if there was any way to work things out. I told him that ship had sailed and hung up. By Wednesday, I was hearing through mutual connections that Derek was in full damage control mode. Apparently, my departure had caused some client concerns. Several of them had specifically requested to work with me, and Derek was struggling to explain my sudden absence without admitting that I had quit because of his management. But the best part was yet to come. While all this drama was playing out at Brand Boost, I was busy building my future. The freelance work was going incredibly well, so well, in fact, that I was considering making it my full-time career. But then I got a call that changed everything. "Sarah? This is Jennifer Walsh from Sterling Marketing Group. I got your name from Lisa Chen at Tech Nova Solutions. She said you did incredible work on their rebranding project." Sterling Marketing Group. I knew the name. They were Brand Boost's biggest competitor in the local market. Bigger clients, better reputation, more resources. I had always wondered what it would be like to work there but never thought I'd have a chance. Lisa was so impressed with your strategic thinking and execution that she insisted I reach out to you. We have an opening for a senior marketing manager position, and based on her recommendation and your portfolio, I think you'd be perfect for it. Senior marketing manager. The position Derek had told me I'd never be qualified for. The conversation that followed was surreal. Jennifer talked about my impressive track record and clear leadership potential. She mentioned specific campaigns for my freelance portfolio and asked detailed questions about my strategic approach. She treated me like an expert, a professional, someone whose opinion mattered. It was everything my conversations with Derek had never been. The formal interview process was even better. I met with their entire leadership team, presented my ideas for improving their client retention strategies, and walked them through case studies of successful campaigns I had managed. They asked challenging questions and actually listened to my answers. They seemed genuinely excited about the possibility of me joining their team. The salary they offered was $85,000, nearly double what I had been making at Brand Boost. The benefits package was comprehensive. The work culture seemed collaborative rather than competitive. And the position would allow me to continue doing freelance work on the side, as long as there were no conflicts of interest. I accepted immediately. My start date was 3 weeks after I quit Brand Boost. 3 weeks to transition my freelance clients, decompress from 4 years of psychological warfare, and prepare for the next chapter of my career. I had no idea how perfect the timing would turn out to be. My first day at Sterling was incredible. I had my own office, with a window, a team of 3 junior coordinators reporting to me, and a portfolio of clients that included some major local brands. My boss, Jennifer, was supportive and professional. My colleagues were welcoming and collaborative. It was like landing in an alternate universe where workplaces actually function properly. I spent my first 2 weeks learning the systems, meeting clients, and developing strategies for my assigned accounts. The work was challenging but enjoyable, and I felt like I was finally using my full skill set. Then came week 3. Jennifer called me into her office on a Wednesday morning with an excited expression. "Sarah, I have great news. We just landed a major new client, Pinnacle Financial Services. They're looking to completely overhaul their marketing strategy, and I think you'd be perfect to lead the account. The initial meeting is Friday at 10 a.m. Pinnacle Financial Services. I recognized the name immediately. They had been one of Brand Boost's biggest clients for the past 2 years. Derek had always managed their account personally, considering it his crown jewel. "That's wonderful," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What made them decide to switch agencies?" Jennifer's expression darkened slightly. "From what I understand, they were unhappy with their current agency's account management. Apparently, their main contact left abruptly, and they weren't confident in the replacement. They decided it was time for a fresh start. Their main contact. That would be me. I was the one who had built the relationship with Pinnacle, developed their current marketing strategy, and managed their campaigns for the past 18 months. Derek had his name on the account, but I had done all the actual work. I'll prepare a comprehensive presentation," I said, already planning in my head. "Actually," Jennifer continued, "there's one more thing. Pinnacle requested that their current agency send a representative to this meeting as well. They wanted to do a direct comparison before making their final decision. Professional courtesy, I suppose." My heart stopped. "Do you know who they're sending?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Someone named Derek Martinez. Do you know him?" I smiled. For the first time in months, it was a completely genuine smile. "Oh yes," I said. "We've worked together before." I had 48 hours to prepare for what was going to be the most satisfying meeting of my professional life. This wasn't just about landing a new client, this was about proving, once and for all, who was really responsible for Pinnacle's success. I started by reviewing everything I could remember about Pinnacle's account. Their pain points, their goals, their previous campaign performance, their budget constraints. I had been intimately involved in every aspect of their marketing for 18 months, so I knew their business better than they knew it themselves. Then I put together a presentation that would make Derek's head spin. See, Derek had always been a big-picture guy who left the details to other people, mainly me. He could talk a good game in client meetings, throwing around buzzwords and making grandiose promises, but he had never actually executed a campaign from start to finish. He didn't know the technical details, the performance metrics, or the specific strategies that had made Pinnacle's campaign successful. But I did. I knew everything. My presentation included detailed analysis of Pinnacle's current market position, comprehensive competitor research, and a strategic roadmap for the next 12 months. But more importantly, it included specific insights about their business that could only come from someone who had been deeply involved in their marketing efforts. I knew which campaigns had performed best and why. I knew which audience segments were most valuable and how to reach them. I knew which messaging resonated and which fell flat. I knew their seasonal patterns, their budget cycles, and their internal decision-making process. Derek knew that their logo was blue and they sold financial services. I also did something else. I reached out to my contacts at Pinnacle directly. Not to poach or badmouth Brand Boost, but simply to let them know where I had landed. The response was immediate and telling. "Sarah, we were so disappointed when you left Brand Boost. Derek said you had decided to pursue other opportunities, but he was very vague about the details. We've been hoping to find a way to work with you again. Your new replacement just doesn't understand our business the way you did. Nothing against him personally, but we feel like we're starting from scratch. We're actually considering switching agencies because the service quality has dropped so significantly since your departure." Perfect. Friday morning arrived with all the dramatic tension of a Western showdown. I arrived at Pinnacle's offices 30 minutes early, looking professional and confident in my best power suit. I had my presentation materials organized, my talking points memorized, and my game face on. Derek showed up 5 minutes late, looking flustered and carrying a hastily assembled folder of materials. He was wearing the same wrinkled shirt I remembered from client meetings past, and his usually slicked-back hair looked disheveled. The moment he walked into the conference room and saw me sitting at the table, his face went through a sequence of expressions that I will treasure for the rest of my life. First, confusion, like he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. Then recognition, as his brain caught up with reality. Then shock, as the implications hit him. Finally, panic, as he realized exactly how fucked he was. Sarah? He stammered. What are you? I mean. How are you? Hello, Derek, I said pleasantly. It's nice to see you again. The Pinnacle team looked back and forth between us with obvious confusion. Do you two know each other? Asked Tom Richardson, Pinnacle's marketing director. Sarah used to work for Derek's agency, I explained smoothly. I was actually the account coordinator for your campaigns until recently. You were our account coordinator? Tom's eyebrows shot up. But Derek always presented himself as our primary contact. I smiled. Derek was the account manager. I handled the day-to-day strategy and execution. Derek's face was turning red. Sarah, perhaps we should. Actually, Tom interrupted, this is perfect. Sarah, we've been trying to get specific answers about our campaign performance data, and Derek hasn't been able to provide the level of detail we need. Since you were handling the execution, maybe you can help us understand why our Q3 numbers were so different from Q2. Oh, this was beautiful. Of course, I said, opening my laptop. The Q3 performance shift was primarily due to seasonal audience behavior patterns. We saw a 23% decrease in engagement with our retirement planning content, which was expected based on previous year's data, but a 45% increase in engagement with our debt consolidation messaging. I adjusted the ad spend allocation accordingly in week 2 of July, which is why you saw the uptick in conversions starting in late July. Tom nodded enthusiastically. Yes. That's exactly the kind of insight we've been looking for. Derek, when we asked you about this last month, you said you'd need to check with your team and get back to us. Derek was sweating now. Well, the account involves a lot of moving pieces, and I like to make sure I have all the facts before. Speaking of facts, I continued, Tom, you mentioned in your email that you were concerned about the drop in organic reach for your LinkedIn content. That happened because LinkedIn changed their algorithm in August, which reduced organic visibility for financial services posts by an average of 30%. I documented this trend and recommended increasing your LinkedIn